Hey friends, my name's Stevie Taylor. Welcome to the Gig Life Podcast. My guest today is Natasha Stuart, singer from Sydney who spent a fair bit of her childhood with her family in West Africa until they ended up coming back to Sydney. The passion she developed in her early years for music and dance continued to grow right through her youth as she would attend every dance class, drama camp and singing lesson her schedule and parents would allow. Her first big gig came at the age of 18 years old, singing backups for Christine Anu on a national tour, playing to massive audiences, and that was just the beginning. Since then, she's sung with Richard Clapton, Paul Mac, Tina Arena, James Morrison, Chisel, Jimmy Barnes, George Benson, Michael Bolton, and so many more. Things were cruising along nicely until last year she was diagnosed with breast cancer. We talk at length about her stellar career, and she also opens up on her battle with the cancer. An incredibly positive and inspiring woman. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Natasha Stuart. Cheers. Well, I think we're rolling.
All right.
Natasha Stuart.
Hi, Stevie. How are you?
Good. Yourself?
I'm good.
Good. Welcome to the Gig Life Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
We've been trying to put this together for a few months, but you've had some shit going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
yeah. You've been punching cancer in the face.
Yep. It's so. But thank you for. Sorry, my dog's licking you now.
Hello. Hello, doggy.
So Bootsy. Bootsy. Oh my. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. It's all good.
She's very excited that you're here.
Yeah. It's all good.
And I'm excited that you're here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been an unexpected 6 months.
Yep.
But I managed to keep working through treatment. And,
yeah, that's very inspiring.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of it now, so
that's great.
Yeah, it's good. Still repairing the body, but yeah, I just noticed I've got 2 millimeters of eyelashes, so I'm very excited.
Oh,
about
good.
that.
Right, so you lost all your hair.
Everything.
Right, okay.
Every nose hair.
Oh, really?
Eyebrows, eyelashes. Yeah, you don't realise as well that nose hair is actually important.
Yeah, it's a filter, man.
Yeah.
It's like a pop filter for your nose.
Totally. So all this stuff that you just go, anyway, we can talk about that later.
Yeah, of course. All right, so let's roll right back to the early days. So you're born in Australia?
Yes,
yep.
To Australian parents who were originally from Melbourne.
Yep.
But born in Sydney, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you went to Swaziland.
Yeah, so Dad worked for the International Monetary Fund. So before I was even 2 years old, we moved to, this tiny, tiny little African country, which is probably the size of Greater Sydney. Like if you added in Liverpool and Campbelltown and North and the Shire and all, it's around about the size of Greater Sydney. And it's just this tiny little kingdom in southern Africa and own royal family. And
and it borders Mozambique, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Mozambique and South
Africa. Yeah.
I was reading something today that, you know, they've changed the name of Swaziland.
Really?
Yep. It's called... Sorry, I just unlocked my iPad.
Oh, my God, I don't even know this.
Very professional. Because I wanted to know what I was talking about before I came.
Yeah, and apparently I don't know what I'm talking about.
No. Well, this is only recent. This is only last year, but it's actually changed its name to Eswatini. And the reason the king changed the name is because when they go abroad, they're always referred to as Switzerland.
Right.
So the king has decided to change the name of the country.
Wow. You're telling me stuff.
Says Google.
Wow. Well, you probably look. I mean, when is Google wrong?
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, that's fascinating.
How a king can just decide to change the name of a country.
That shows you the power of the monarchy, I guess.
Yeah, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how old were you when you...
So I was not even 2 when we arrived, and I was 5 years old when we moved to Australia, which was it was effectively I was moving back, but because I wasn't even 2 when we moved, I had no idea what this Australia was.
Right.
So it was very foreign coming back here. And within 3 months of moving to Australia, I had pneumonia and a collapsed lung.
Oh, shit.
So it was quite the shock. It was like an interesting time. And, people think that, sorry, that's my dog with her toy.
It's fine. It's a cool toy.
Yeah, you think that, people worry about diseases in Africa, and it's like move to Australia, bang, hospital, collapsed lung, really sick, almost died at 5, Right. So, I hadn't really thought about that for quite a while.
Right.
But
now, what was you surrounded in music, obviously African rhythms and being, so close to Mozambique, and South Africa itself. Yeah,
and the Zulu. I think there was a lot of Zulu, the Swazis and Zulu, even language and music and harmonies and rhythm were very, very similar. So, and it's one of they even share the clicking languages.
Right.
Xhosa and all of that stuff. Right. So all of those. It's really interesting because I lived in West Africa, not jumping ahead too much, but I lived in West Africa as well, sort of a few years later. And the East and South African, Southern African harmonies and drumming and rhythms are really quite different from the West African style. And there's just something, whenever I hear the East African harmonies and the way that those rhythms and it sort of elicits this incredible feeling of home when I hear it.
That's great.
It's beautiful. So I think that was probably a massive influence on me landing, in the career that I've taken and why I love it so much.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself going back to listen to that music now?
Yeah, it's funny, like occasionally I might hear something from Power of One, if I'm in a shopping centre somewhere, and it's really, it does, it kind of sends me back to my childhood, and it's super comforting, and I look for it. I don't find a lot of great stuff easily accessible, but in fact if anyone wants to send me stuff, that'd be great. Because I love all that stuff, but I adore, and I will occasionally, if Power of One is on TV or whatever, I love watching
lose
that
yourself
stuff.
in that.
I just want to hear, not necessarily the story, I just want to hear the harmonies. It's just so beautiful.
Right, that's really cool. Now, were you singing at this stage?
Well, no, I was pretty little. I was dancing a lot.
Okay.
I was dancing a lot. I wanted to be a ballerina, but my mum thought that my dancing was much more African inspired than ballet.
Right.
So it was much more movement involved than the sort of the gracefulness of the ballerinas.
Right.
I wasn't it wasn't as technique oriented.
Right.
Was not my style. But yeah, I think the vocal stuff must have infused, because by the time I was back in Australia, like 5, 6, I was just singing and dancing all the time. I was that annoying kid that was doing a show at inappropriate times.
Cool.
That was 100% me. Look at me, look at this, this. Listen to this,
That's cool.
Super annoying.
Yeah. Right, so you're back in Australia and you're singing and you're dancing. When did you realise that, I think this is what I want to be doing?
Well, the funny thing was I asked for.
That's some diva shit there.
I know. Yep. And I think anyone that knows me knows that I'm such a shy and retiring type. But yeah, so I pretty much was like, I want dance lessons. I want to do tap, jazz and ballet. And at first Mum was like, let's just see how a couple of them go. And then finally she let me do all of it. And then we moved to West Africa. And it was when I was in West Africa in another small country called the Gambia. I was now 9 and 10 and 11, and I didn't have many tapes, and we're talking tapes. It was back in the olden days. Yep. And Dad would kind of go to a business trip. He'd go to London and sort of go into a music store and say, I've got a 10-year-old daughter, what's the album that she would like?
Right.
And he would bring back, I remember the first trip I got 2 Madonna albums.
Had you heard Madonna at that stage?
No.
Right, so that music wasn't there.
Oh my God, we didn't have home phones. We didn't have, there was no radio station. There was no TV.
Right.
There was it was really pretty technologically not happening.
Right. Okay.
So I had the tape recorder that I'd borrowed either from my parents or my brother, and I had a couple of mixtapes that had come from Australia, and I think they were my brother's. He was much older, so he didn't live with us in West Africa. So basically I had a tape recorder to play, some tapes, and I had the Pointer Sisters album, and I had the Ghostbusters soundtrack.
Oh, cool.
And then my dad brought over the first couple of Madonna albums. So I had Like a Virgin and True Blue. And those 4 albums were on heavy rotation.
Yep.
And that was pretty much the majority of what I had to listen to, and maybe a couple of compilation tapes.
Right.
So I just absorbed all of that. And I remember looking at one of the compilation tapes, and I had this moment. I vividly remember just being this little girl in West Africa with no radio, no TV, no home phone, and just going, I wonder if you could be a singer. I wonder if you could do that as a job.
Right.
I vividly remember it. I think I might have been...
So it was that epiphany moment.
Yep.
You had one of those.
Yep. And
awesome.
I would have been 9 or 10. And I was just looking, and then I looked through the mixed, the compilation tape, and I kind of was totaling up how many females there were,
right,
to work out, can girls do this,
Right.
And that was, I guess that was the start of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And was there anywhere you could go there to just, no?
Nothing. There was, I think, because it was a small group of expatriates over there,
right,
and there weren't really, as far as I knew, there weren't any sort of African dance classes or community centres where, there may have been, but I didn't know about them.
More of a tribal type,
possibly
family tribal type thing. Yep.
Yeah, who knows? I had piano lessons from the Baptist minister.
Yep.
So he was a really lovely Gambian gentleman who was just so sweet and used to get cranky because he'd be always saying, "Are you reading the music?" And I'm like, "Yes." And I was just doing everything by ear.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
And then one lady who was the mother of someone from the school was doing Scottish dancing lessons. So that was all we had was Scottish dancing, which was hilarious. But then once we moved back to Australia.
How old were you then?
11.
11, yeah.
11, just turned 11. And and then I begged/demanded to go to the Johnny Young Talent School.
Right, cool.
So then I was there for many years learning, singing, dancing, acting, all of it. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And that was like, yes, this is my life. This is what I want to do. It was my happy place. Loved it. Yeah.
Who else that people might know now that were there at that same time?
Well, Darren Percival was one of the singing teachers.
Oh, was he? Right,
yeah.
Okay, cool. Yep.
So I actually saw Darren the other day, and it's so great to see, to be able to even work with someone who was so instrumental in sort of teaching you and giving me a lot of insights into not only how to sing, but why to sing,
Right.
The emotion that you need to put into your performance rather than just singing the notes and singing the words.
Yep.
There was another singer who we used to do a lot of stuff together, Anita Spring, who I think I'm not sure if she's doing as much stuff these days, but she was sort of performing around town as well, and I think she may have done a jazz album a little while ago. She's married to Todd Hardy, who's a trumpet player. So, and then I think there's sort of the main people, like her and I are probably the main people as far as students around that time who kept going. But then from sister schools, because there were a few Johnny Young talent schools around the city and country, and a lot of people are still sort of in the dance world.
Right.
Dance world and musical theatre, yeah.
Right, cool.
Yeah.
Through there, were you going to auditions for bands and stuff like that, or playing gigs?
Yeah, so after... I think with dancing school, it kind of got to a point when I was 16 and I went, okay, I've graduated. I'm definitely one of the oldest people here, and it does get to that point where everyone kind of has to go off and get out into the wide world. And I just would consume the drum media, which was...
the drum media, man.
Yeah,
so good.
The free, it was weekly, wasn't it?
It was weekly, it was free.
Yep, free weekly paper.
Yep.
I would get that.
And it used to be in these things called, what were they called? Record stores.
Yes, I remember
those things?
Yeah. I used to love record stores, going up and going, when's the new such and such album coming out?
When I first moved to Australia from New Zealand, the first band that I found was in the classifieds in the back of drum media.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I think the band after that was also in the back of the classifieds, It was cool, man.
Oh, I would literally go, I would just go every week, go to the classifieds, and I would call every single ad that I was remotely...
Oh, right.
Like anything that I thought I would be remotely okay for.
Cool.
So I auditioned for cover band after cover band. I cannot tell you how many free vocal sessions I did in studios, were
they advertising for...
Yeah,
to come in and do a session and not get paid?
Well, no, it was much. It wasn't. No, that thank God it wasn't that.
Yep.
It was much more. Hey, I've got a track. It was
got you.
It was back when people were still getting signed to record deals.
Right, got you. Yeah.
back in the olden days.
Those days, yeah.
And so it'd be so and so wants a singer for the demo, and so I would go in and I'm actually really glad I cut my teeth that way in the studio because, I mean. None of those tracks went anywhere, but it was invaluable as far as getting experience in the studio.
Yes, yeah.
I suddenly learnt we double vocal takes. This is how we record harmonies. We block this all up and it goes like this. And I got my microphone technique and I understood how to work in the studio, how to, record and do all of that stuff. So even though... Again, they were original projects essentially, most of them. I never really did anything. I wasn't doing jingles or anything for free.
Right, gotcha.
So it wasn't. I wasn't really being taken advantage as
cool.
such.
Good.
So that's good and important. But it was really helpful as far as my learning curve in the music industry and studio work. And all of the covers bands, I must say, oh my God, I learnt Sydney, as far as driving.
Yeah.
Because I'd be doing an audition in Kingsgrove and then I'd be in Canterbury and then I'd be, down south and north and everywhere. I learnt every rehearsal studio.
And not getting gigs.
Not getting gigs. And then finally a band called Baby Loves to Cha Cha hired me. And it was one of those moments where I went, thank God I did not get one of those other bands.
Right, okay.
Because if I hadn't gotten Baby Loves to Cha-Cha, I wouldn't have met all of the people who were sort of instrumental in being not only my peers but people who then it led to other gigs.
Right, and who are some of those people?
So in Baby Loves to Cha-Cha first, Tony Zvetkovsky, who produced my first EP, and he recorded a lot of. He used to work for Sony doing all kinds of artists. I think he did stuff for Human Nature as well, Dennis and Darren went back at when it was Kaylin. He did stuff with them as well, and then. When he left Baby Loves to Cha-Cha, Serge Dimitrijevic came in, and he is now the guitarist for Earth, Wind and Fire.
Yeah, right.
So, and I met Chris Kamzelis at my first gig. He just came down to hang out. And then, through Chris, I got the Richard Clapton gig. And so cool. it was just actually a really wonderful. Dario Bortolin would fill in for the band as well. And, he plays with Baby Animals. And, so it was so great that, it does kind of come down to that thing that I really do think things do happen for a reason.
Yeah, awesome.
And I thank God for every one of those rejections from the other 10 covers bands that I auditioned for that I wasn't the right fit. Thank God. Thank God, because I ended up where I was supposed to be.
Good stuff. And how long were you with Baby Loves to Cha-Cha?
I think I was with them for probably maybe 4 years. And then I floated around. I think I was in another covers band for maybe a couple of years after that. And then I just freelanced for a while. And by this stage I was working with, I joined, it was when I joined a band called Funkstar with,
I remember Funkstar.
Yeah, yep. Andre Kamen and we worked together for many years. And it was around that time, which I think was 2000, that I then started with Richard Clapton as well. So that was kind of my that was a bit of a turning point, I think, around 2000. Yeah.
Right. Now, in your bio, you had Christine Anu when you're 18.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. So
that's crazy, actually. I was doing Christine Anu's gig before I even did Baby Loves to Cha-Cha.
Oh, right, okay.
And funnily enough, tagging back, it was Anita Spring from Dancing School who got me that gig. I was filling in for her because she worked with Christine on a musical. So she was Christine's regular backing singer, and then there were some gigs she couldn't do, and I was first call. So
that's great.
Yeah.
And what stage in Christine Anu's career was that?
That was the big period.
Mile and Home type.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It was that first album. So one of the gigs I did was an acoustic gig with just her and the guitarist, and it was at the Mullaney Festival, which is now Woodford, and that was 14,000 people at a, amphitheatre.
Shit.
Yeah, so that was me at 18. I think I might have just turned 19.
What are your memories of that? The feelings?
It was incredible. It was I was a pretty lost soul at that point. I think just emotionally, just not knowing what I was doing or where I was going, as I think many 18, 19-year-olds can feel. But I definitely remember, I just remember being side stage, and there was I think second or third song Christine sang Aboriginal Woman, and I would go off for that song, and I just remember looking out at the crowd and just because it was literally on the side of a hill, and just seeing the lights of the like little candles here and there, and just the thousands of people. And then Simo, who was doing staging, he was like, "Oh, check this out!" And I walked a little bit further around, and just the crowd that I thought it was, actually, instead of being sort of 150 degrees of crowd, it was 180 degrees, and it was just as far as you could see.
Right.
So that was incredible.
Yeah.
And Christine was, she was just at her peak and singing. She sings beautifully, but she was, I remember that particular night just being dumbfounded at, the whole experience, the crowd, her connection to the music and the way she was singing. And it was pretty special.
That's cool, because I'm sure, I don't remember when I was 18, 19, having any sort of feelings like that. If I did a big gig, it was like, I did the gig, and and it's cool that you're able to take the time to take it all in back then.
Yeah.
Being so young,
Yeah, 100%. And even I think it was kind of a blessing to have that moment off stage, because that was when I really took it in, because I can vividly see it now.
Yeah, right.
I've got that. It's locked in my memory.
Yeah, and then you chase that, Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Right, so we skip back, so let's pop back forward again. Richard Clapton.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, my God. So Richard Clapton, I was Chris Camzellis actually brought Richard to a gig that I was doing, and it happened to be my 24th birthday. And Richard needed a new singer. I think I had actually done a midday show performance with him maybe a few months before, and
was that as a session singer?
Yeah,
right.
Just he was between singers. He hadn't hired anyone yet, and so I think he was kind of trying out a few people, and I did that session, and then he came down to this gig Chris dragged him down to this gig that I was doing, and the rest is history. I worked with Richard the other weekend, so
yeah, that's cool.
It's a long time, and he hasn't got rid of me yet.
Yeah, and that's tours as well as albums?
I think I've only sung on a couple. I've done one studio album and a live album of his. But yeah, it's been a long and one of the most consistent gigs of my life.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's
and
great.
he's just, that band, it's such a family. It's a beautiful, beautiful unit.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And does he play all year round, or is he sort of seasonal?
He's a little bit seasonal. We've just been out on the Red Hot Summer tour.
Oh, yeah, out on that.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that was really cool. I didn't do all of it, but I did do the last couple of weekends.
Right, cool.
So Richard usually does it's normally he'll do Down the Green festivals, or the Red Hot Summer is the first time he's done it this year. And he normally does one big gig, like either at the Enmore Theatre or State Theatre per year. And then just sort of a smattering of other gigs. He does a lot of acoustic stuff, a few private party things, and then he'll do, a few solid bigger gigs. He'll do, a big one in Melbourne and Brizzy and Sydney. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. And you did some stuff with Paul Mac also?
Yes, I did. I forgot about that. Oh, my God. Oh, yeah, 2001, I toured with him a lot, yeah, and that was amazing. Paul his ears and his musical ability is just phenomenal.
Yeah, that album he did.
The Above the Clouds?
I think that's what it's called.
Yeah,
I think Abby Dobson's singing on it. Yeah, that's
beautiful.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to tour a lot of that. Abby would be on, Peter Morris, and then occasional other guest singers would come in. And, I did a lot of shows with him, and it was so wonderful. Yeah,
it seems like a cool dude, trippy.
He's so cool. He's so... And I've got to work with him in the studio a bunch of times as well.
Awesome.
And his ears are out of this world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And he will see, there'd be a section of 5 backing vocalists, and if one person was a tiny bit out, you just get this look over his shoulder with the evil eye. And I'd be like, it wasn't me.
That guy.
Yeah, but it's just so I love that, because I'm a real pitch Nazi as well.
Okay,
so,
that's cool.
Yeah, I thrive on that kind of. Not everyone does, but
sure.
Yeah, because I'm always like, I can do better, or I'm in tune, or what
Because I'm sure these days there's a lot of that. Oh, we'll just fix it in post.
Yeah, no, I hate that.
Right.
I hate that. I sang on Kerry Buchanan's album a few years ago, and we were in the studio, and he said, "Oh, don't worry, I tune everything," and I'm like, "Nope, I want to sing it right. No crappy takes. I'm getting it right."
Great.
And he messaged me after, and he said, "Yeah, I didn't tune anything." I was like, "Yes,
that's awesome. That's great."
Anyway, back to
cool. So we're around 2000. So we've gone back to Paul Mac.
Yes.
Yep. what year was Richard Clapton, sorry?
So Richard, I started with Richard around 2000. And then I think Paul Mac probably started around 2001.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
So, this is great. Memory lane.
Cool. That's what it's all about, man.
So toured with Paul quite a bit around that. So it was kind of splitting. I do remember Paul getting upset, or just like not upset, but just kind of giving me a bit of a dig, if I'd have to choose between Richard Clapton and Paul.
Oh, right, okay.
So, because, artists can get a bit possessive over you.
Right, can they? Right.
Which is nice,
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah.
But I really enjoyed all of that,
Yep.
So, I can't remember where I went after Paul. It just all unfolded.
You did some TV performances with Kelly Osbourne and Lionel Richie.
Yeah.
Right. Tell us about that. That's a trip.
Well, again, so many things in my career have just come so out of the blue. But I guess at the same time, they're not out of the blue, because I think the one thing I've really prided myself on is no matter what the gig, no matter where it is, give 100%. And it's not even that I think that maybe down the track something could, come from that. But I think when people see you, and you may not know who they are while you're just doing a little gig in a little venue, in a little pub somewhere,
yep.
But you do a good job and you show up and... Bootsy! Sorry. She's just so excited.
It's fine.
She's excited you're here.
It's fine.
I think it's that... The thing is that there've been these little gigs that I've done, and then I get a call and it feels like it's completely out of the blue, and it'll be a publicist friend of the guitarist that I do the Sunday gig with. And so with this call So I got this call to do a gig singing backup with Lionel Richie, and it was through Peter Northcote and, his publicist Rena Ferris, who I now know really well and absolutely adore. It was just that random call. Lionel's going to be here for a day doing press, and he's going to need a singer on the midday show with Carrie Ann and another sports show. And, so just spent the day bouncing around a few different studios and TV things. And, oh, my God, what an incredible man he is.
Yeah, right. As a person, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Even obviously as a singer as well.
Of course.
But, we heard him get asked the exact same questions about Nicole and Paris were doing The Simple Life.
Oh, it was that time, right, okay.
Time.
All right.
And he answered every single question that we heard him get asked over and over again as if it was the first time he'd ever heard that question.
That's cool. Professional.
Yep. And he was beautiful, and he just gave, whenever he spoke to you, it was like you were the only person in the world, the only person in the room. He was 100% focused on you. So that was great. And then the other out of the blue was, can you do backing vocals for Kelly Osbourne, because the Osbournes are coming out to host the first MTV Video Music Awards here. And, so all of a sudden I'm working with my other very good friend, Carmen Smith. We were sort of the imports, and Kelly brought out...
Carmen sings for Guy now, is that right? Yeah, okay.
Exactly. So Carmen and I did a lot of work, which we'll probably get to after this one. Yep. But singing and dancing as Kelly's backing dancer / singers. It was a bit like Madonna back in the olden days with the two BV singer dancers.
Right.
And while we were doing that, the getting ready for the show, the makeup artist kind of saw my very long hair, which was down to my waist at that point. And he kind of said, "Oh, look, I want to just start on your hair now." Grabbed me, sat me down. It's just me. There's a chair next to me and mirror in front of us. And then next to me sits Ozzy Osbourne.
No way.
Natasha. Yeah, I was just sitting there. That's another one of those experiences where you just go, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
I'm sitting in a chair facing a mirror. Ozzy is right next to me. We're both facing the mirror. We're looking at each other and we're just having a conversation, and I'm like, how is this happening? And oh my God, for the Prince of Darkness, he is one of the lightest people I have ever met. He's so full of light and energy, and it was really funny. He was a little bit shuffly and quiet backstage, but the moment that he had to turn on the Aussiness, man, it just all comes forth and he's incredible.
Yeah, that's cool. That's
wonderful,
really cool.
Man.
Right. Awesome.
So lucky. I can't believe that I met him and got to have a chat with him.
That's a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And then after the...
Yeah, so then Carmen and I did a lot of work together. So we did a lot of, Carmen, obviously, as you said, she tours with Guy and has done for many, many years. But the first gigs that she and I both did with Guy were around, I think, around that same 2004-05 period. And it was all of the promo. I did all the promo with Carmen for the Out With My Baby single, and just before he started his tour. And then a couple of years after that, Carmen and I again were singing backup for Jess Malboy. So we spent a bunch of time together touring with Jess as well, and that was a lot of fun because Carmen's a great dancer, and I like to think that I'm a good dancer, whether I am or not.
Yeah.
So we would just for fun, we would have choreography going as well as doing the backing vocals. So yeah, it was also always awesome working with her.
That's great.
Yeah.
Cool. And around 2006, you released your first EP.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I released my first EP in 2006. I actually produced, funnily enough, with Richie Vez, who plays bass for Diesel and who's an incredible songwriter and producer. And he's married to Carmen, funnily enough.
Okay, right, cool.
It was I was just really happy to kind of get a sort of a first taste of like a new sound for myself. I had recorded sort of some poppy stuff when I wanted to be sort of a Britney Spears / NSYNC / that period of music,
yep.
Trying to land a record deal, naive and young and 20 or something.
Could just go roll back a little bit. Was there any sort of bites on that stuff?
Do you know what? I got a massive bite that was shut down. So John Woodruff, who was Savage Garden's manager, he was interested, and he set me up with a producer. And every time I would speak to this producer and we would organise a session, because it was just basically about getting me better songs or the right songs to then, present to a record company and get a deal. And we would book in a session for 11 o'clock on a Monday or whatever, and I would turn up at the studio, and that producer's business manager would come out and tell me, oh, no, I've cancelled the session because you're not signed. And I'm like, but I've got one of the most powerful managers in Australia backing me, and we just want songs. And it just happened over and over and over again. There were about 4 sessions, and this producer, the producer was into it, and his business partner cancelled every single session. So that was pretty devastating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely took quite the hit. So I guess that's why it took a while for me to kind of go, okay, I've got to do this all myself,
Okay.
And fund it myself.
Yep.
Which I did. And so the first EP, and it was coming off the back, funnily enough, I just toured with Delta Goodrem. So I think that was 2005 that I toured with her? Yeah. Yep. So that was another massive tour around Australia, and she was kind of doing, the Rod Lavers and Acer and all of those venues. And, I guess I had enough money after that to kind of put it into my EP, and it felt good to actually do my own thing. And, so I did my EP launch at the Basement, sold out from what I remember. And, it was, I think I sold a couple hundred CDs that night too, which is back when CDs were being bought, and we actually had CD players. So
right. Yep.
so that was a pretty special night, because it's just that undertaking as well that you don't know if you can put on a show and if anyone's going to come and support your original music. So I got a cast of thousands at my EP launch as well. I had many of the people that I've mentioned playing, and yeah, it was a great night.
That's cool. And did that EP launch or did the EP at all gather any sort of traction? Not
really. I think the hardest thing about launching this, and the same goes today, and it certainly went back then, the easy part, which we know is not easy, is actually getting the album together. And then the hard work starts once the album is done. So for me, I put all of the effort into the recording and getting it right, and then didn't have as much follow through, because I think it's one of those things that it's hard to sacrifice money and time and energy and knockbacks, just constant knockbacks and knockbacks and knockbacks, until you can kind of, start making some money from original music. And I really admire all of the people with the tenacity to stay that course and to really, go hard. And I think for me, life was a little bit too cushy. I was working with these artists, I was making money, singing covers, and I would have had to have given up that good life to really pursue the music. The original music. And the other thing for me was I was spoilt with the guys in my band, because I had these, session guys, my favourite top-of-shelf players, and they'll do a couple of favours for you for sort of mates rates, but you can't expect these guys to go out on the road or do dodgy little little venues. Yeah. So I guess for me it was more about just getting that first step done, and then I did work on an album. So I was always going to continue on with the original music, but I don't know if I ever really believed that I would get signed as such. And it was also just getting harder and harder. I think from that EP, I realised that I was too alternative at that stage for the pop world, but I wasn't alternative enough. I wasn't indie enough for.
What was the music?
It was kind of a little bit Lenny Kravitzzy influenced. So it was kind of pop rock. Nick Acosta would probably be like a good kind of idea of the style of music. It was just a funky, rocky kind of thing.
Right. And what was going on around that time? What kind of music?
Let me think.
What were you competing with?
Well, I think it was Triple J indie vibes.
Okay.
So that real indie vibe, sort of around 2006, 2007, and which I think continues on, although it's kind of getting a little bit, the lines are getting more blurred with the indie now. And then it was just like sort of, I don't know, even things like Bado or, and Delta for sure.
Okay.
Like it was that, like a real pop sound or a real indie sound, and I kind of lay in between. So it was kind of a little bit no man's land. I was not pop enough to get signed, and I was not indie enough for Triple J to play me. So I was kind of just in the middle.
Right, cool.
Yeah.
And so you were you were cool with that? You were cool with letting that go?
Yeah,
since you were living sort of you're pretty happy with the gigs that you're playing. And
yeah, I think honestly it took me until I think the time that I really let the original music kind of not go, because I still, I think I've probably got another album in me for sure.
Awesome.
And I'll put that out at some point and get or whether I put it out an album or do tracks or whatever. Mm-hmm. But so I finished a full-length album in 2012, and I got a US manager who was kind of helping me just do some showcases, and I went over to the States and
showcases in the States.
Yeah,
right.
And so I did some gigs in New York. I did a showcase in Nashville, and really, essentially, that manager kind of ran away with $3,500 of mine and didn't really do anything. And And, you know, I mean, look, in the scheme of things, $3,500 is nothing. But at that stage, it was a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, man.
A lot of money. And I was pretty heartbroken from that. And also the showcase that I did in Nashville was, I kind of got to the end of the showcase and I had a slick band. I had these awesome guys that Jared Neal, an Australian drummer.
Yep.
Exactly. So he helped me put that band together and he played with me as well. And we nailed that showcase. And I saw and heard some of the other bands and it was like by far slick outfit, good songs. Well, you know, I felt that they certainly were, and the band smashed it. It was great. Had the product going, had the look. I had the, you know, we'd spent a lot of time and money getting the package, you know, quote unquote, together. And obviously invested money. I had to pay to be in the showcase. I had to hire the band. I had to hire the rehearsal studio, all of that stuff. So it was again another big investment, along with the $3,500 for the manager who basically did nothing. And got to the end of the showcase, and one of the guys came up to me from the panel, and he was like, "Oh, that was really, really great." Blah blah blah. And what I realized as he kept talking was, all that they were doing was pitching their own wares to the artists and going, he was just saying, here's my card and I think that we could actually re-record your songs and take them in this direction and make them a little bit more Motown and this and that and the other. And then I left and I went, oh my God, that was just a big sham of a showcase. It wasn't even, they weren't really offering, you know, a prize as such. Like there was supposed to be recording deal and blah, blah, blah.
So they were wanting you to come to them and pay them to...
100%. So I kind of... After that was the point. So I'd done the album. I went to, you know, the States and came home and sort of just kind of felt pretty broken by the knocks and the knockbacks and I felt financially exhausted, emotionally exhausted. And, I took a break from original music after that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I pushed pretty hard that year. Maybe not the right avenues. And certainly I was really naive. I think a lot of artists can get sidetracked by assuming that someone has good intentions. And if someone says, oh, you know, you should be lucky to be doing this, or you're lucky that I'm paying attention, or you're lucky that it's like, well, yeah, I think that whole experience taught me more than anything to stand up for myself, to question things. And if you're paying money, you're not lucky that person's taking an interest in you.
You're the boss, man.
Exactly.
You're the boss.
So my naivety has certainly... there's been a few rough lessons in my career,
sure.
but I think each of them has definitely made me stronger, and I've always taken the lesson and gone, right, okay, never again is that happening.
Good stuff.
Yeah, yep.
Now, how did you get the onto the Razzle Dazzle soundtrack?
Okay, so I have worked a lot with Joseph Calderazzo, who I don't know if you know.
He does the Led Zeppelin...
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yep. I don't know him personally, but...
Yep. So I got a random call from him. It was actually, again, because I was working regularly with Pete Northcote on Sundays at the Bridge Hotel. And Lloyd G, the drummer, was working with Joseph. And Joseph was looking for someone for a Pink Floyd show. And he rang me up, and I knew of him but had never worked with him, and he said, I'm doing this Pink Floyd show and I need someone to sing a couple of songs. And he said, one song doesn't actually have any lyrics in it. It's just kind of like an ad-libby thing. And I was like, great, no lyrics to learn, amazing. The song was Great Gig in the Sky.
Yeah, I know the one. It's got that wail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. If I had known what that song was before I signed up for it, I don't know whether I would have done it. And anyone who wants to to, check it out on YouTube, and there's a whole, there's a classic albums that they go into that as well. But it's just this epic, epic vocal piece. And,
Where she almost sounds in pain, doesn't she?
Oh, yeah.
It's heavy, man.
Yeah, they talk on the documentary, on the classic albums, they say they told this woman to just go in and imagine fire and brimstone. It's full on. So it's this epic piece. But I did that show, and on that show was Steve Balby of Noiseworks and Electric Hippies fame and his own projects. And I remember I came off stage having done that song for the first time at the Basement, and I came off stage and I just remember Steve looked at me and he goes, "Well, you nailed that chicken to the wall." And that started this kind of like magical little relationship with Steve Balby, who I just adore so much. He's another brilliant person to have been able to work with, and he ended up getting me in the studio for various things that he was doing, and then he did the soundtrack for this film Razzle, Dazzle, which is a mockumentary about dancing schools, which is just, I mean, it couldn't be more up my alley. Like, it's a mockumentary, it's about dancing schools. I was so ensconced in dancing school land.
Yep.
And so Steve was like, "Oh, I want to do a remake of this song, Everybody's Free." And I was like, "Rosella, oh my God, I've got the 12-inch," which I do. When I was 12, I would put that 12-inch on and sing and dance around the house to it. And so he got me to record that and a new version of Flashdance, which again, he was like, "Do you need a copy of that?" And I'm like, "Dude, no.
Come on, man.
I don't even need lyrics. I'm ready."
Yeah.
Been preparing for that for all my
life. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was just such a joy. And then it was so great. I got to work with these incredible dancers sort of that were in the movie promoting the film. And I was back doing shopping centre shows with the girls.
Cool.
And we did the midday show with Carrie Ann again.
Right.
I seem to have done the midday show a lot.
Yep.
But I tell you what, watching that movie at the premiere at, with all of the audience, and then hearing sort of the climax of the movie, and then hearing your voice at this sort of, moment of the movie that's so intense. It was pretty great.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's I really, it's another like moment where you just go, wow, what a trip.
Yeah.
How lucky.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Now, you spent a fair bit of time with Tina Arena.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So about what time did that start? Around that time?
Yeah, no, Tina, I got a call. I remember Paul Gray called me at the end of 2009, and he said, I'd worked with Paul on and off. Actually, the very first time I worked with Paul, and this is where it all comes around. The first time I did a gig with him was with Christine Anu when I was 19,
Right.
So we were both filling in at that stage.
Right.
And yeah, Paul called me and he said, "Hey, how are you placed in January of 2009?" And I said, I think I'm free. I can be free. Like, for what do you need me for? He said, "Look, leave it with me, but there might be something. There might be something, and it might be Tina Arena." And I was like, "I'm so free. I'm 100% free." And then he called me again, and I got this gig with Tina Arena, and it was a run of dates. They were Day on the Green through sort of January, February of 2009, I think. And it was one of those things where I think every gig that I've gone into, I'm like, you just enjoy it. Enjoy it for however long it lasts, right? And it might be this one tour and that's it. So you just lap it up. You enjoy it as much as possible. And that turned into 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I I remember the first rehearsal with Tina as well. A couple of the guys were like, "Look, she's very particular, and don't freak out. Like, she'll tell you exactly what she wants, and she'll, just basically when she tells you things, don't freak out. Just take it on board and do what she says."
It was good to get that heads up.
Oh, totally. So, but again, I was so ready for that gig because even when I was doing all my recordings, like the way that I would warm up as I was heading to the studio to record my originals, I would sing Tina Arena songs, because that's, if I could sing a Tina Arena song in the car, I would be ready to record. So I was ready for that gig, and so the boys had kind of clued me up and were like, "Don't worry, and just it'll be fine, but she'll critique you a lot." And she came in, and first of all, when she started singing, I thought that Paul had triggered track, because what I could hear coming out of the speakers sounded like track, but it wasn't. It was Tina live just sounding like the record.
Right.
Just amazing to hear that and just go, "Oh my God, you're just doing that." And then I think it might have been Sorrento Moon, might have been one of the first tracks that we did. And so we sang it through, got to the end of Sorrento, and Tina looked at me and she goes, "Okay, let's do," and we just went to the next song, and I was like, "Okay, great, yes. I'm doing the right thing,
awesome.
I'm doing it. I've prepped,
yeah.
I knew my shit, and just listened and made sure I was blending, and it was just I was just so ready for that gig and so happy to be there that it all worked out."
Cool.
So it was absolute. Oh my God, singing with her, what a joy!
Right.
So always came off the road with her a better singer. Always.
That's cool.
Always, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, so are you finished up with her now? Yep.
For the moment.
Yep.
Yeah, she's she's doing Evita at the moment.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah,
yep.
and I didn't do the last tour. She had a Melbourne-based band for the last tour. And unfortunately, I really wanted to get to see the show, but I was working each of the Sydney dates, which was a bummer because I would have loved to have seen it. And Tina and I still chat, which is really nice. So, and I went and saw her in Evita and had a chat backstage as well. She was just smashed that as well.
Great.
Yeah, she's incredible in that. Anyone who can go and check it out, if you're in Melbourne, it's well worth seeing.
Yep, cool.
Yeah.
Now, what else was sort of happening around that time?
While I was doing Tina, I ended up landing in the band that I am in now, which is now called Dirty Cash, but it was Radio City Cats at the time. And again, that was one of those bands where it's a covers band, and my good friend Melinda Jackson was off doing, it was her band, and she was off doing Rogue Traders. So I thought I was just on borrowed time.
Oh, Melinda Jackson.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've effectively completely stolen her gig.
Awesome. Right.
But, I started working with those guys, and they were all have a band called King Farouk, which was still sort of kind of happening at the time, they'd just finished touring, and they were kind of having a break. So I just thought I was going to be filling in for 6 months, 12 months, maybe 18 months, and I think we're now in our 10th year.
That's cool. That's awesome.
Which is bananas.
Yeah, and how often are you guys playing?
Yeah, well, pretty much we try and do 2 a week at least.
Okay, cool.
So that's been pretty consistent. It has fallen off a little bit in the last couple of months just because someone, i.e. me, has dropped the ball a little bit. So, I'm hoping that we'll be back gigging, at least we're pretty much twice a week, and hoping that I can get that back into full swing once my health is 100%.
Good stuff.
Yeah, so I did 2 gigs back to back last week as well, but anyway,
right.
So and other gigs apart from that, what else was I doing concurrently with Tina? I think it was mainly Mainly Tina.
Right.
Unless you've got my resume there. I'm probably missing stuff. I get confused.
Yeah, no, well, there's a lot of... You've done a lot of stuff. Cold Chisel, Jimmy Barnes.
Ah, yeah. So I think it was last year was the first Cold Chisel gigs.
Mm-hmm.
And Mahalia Barnes, Jimmy's daughter, and I have known each other for 15 years or so because, again, working with Richard, so many of my early gigs with him and just all of the festival gigs that we do, it's so frequently Richard Clapton, Dazzle, Jimmy Barnes. So Mahalia and I have known each other for so long, and we just never, I think because our registers, we sing in a similar kind of high register.
Right.
So knowing each other and knowing each other's really great, but never kind of working together for whatever reason.
Right.
And then because Mahalia has been out doing Joe Bonamassa tours, and always the Cold Chisel backing vocal section was Jade McRae, Mahalia, and Juanita Tippins. And with at least two of those girls are overseas with Joe at any one time. So when Cold Chisel want to do their gigs, they've lost potentially half, 2/3 of their section. So Mahalia rang me and she's like, would you be interested? And I'm like, dude, come on. Let me check my diary. I'm free. I'm free for Cold Chisel.
Yeah.
So that was, here's another completely just pinch yourself moment that on stage with Cold Chisel, it's just like, oh my God, these bloody legends.
Yep.
And, that's just, there's been, what was I think the first gig I did with them was in Tasmania, and then we did Newcastle, and there's been it's just been like sort of a warm-up show and a really big gig, and I've done that a few times, but that band and those guys and the music and the crowd, and it's just incredible piece of Australian history. That is
timeless stuff.
Yeah, and they are as good now as they have ever been.
Yep.
Like really. Toward the end, the beginning of last year we played a show at the Enmore Theatre, and they went as the Barking Spiders, which was their kind of like their secret band name when they were doing warm-up shows. And to see or to be on stage with Cold Chisel at the Enmore, it was like the biggest pub show. They pulled out all the seats at the Enmore Theatre, and just, it was just watching from our position on stage, and I'm looking, and Jimmy's got his arm around Mossy as they're singing together, and I'm just like, the amount of times that I've seen that, and I'm looking straight at it from behind on stage.
Yep.
Just surreal. So and all those guys. And funnily enough, Phil Small, the bass player, I used to. So I'm skipping around all over the place.
No probs.
All kinds of tangents. But my fallback on career, just in case the whole singing thing didn't work out, I used to teach aerobics, and I used to teach at a little gym in Balmain, and Phil Small used to go and in fact still does go to that gym.
Right, okay.
And his wife used to do my step classes.
Oh, cool.
So, and Phil did a couple of them as well. And, so I've kind of known him for a really long time as well, but through, a kind of a different channel.
Yeah.
So, it was kind of, it's just hilarious to now just go, oh my God, now I get to sing in your band, you know, on occasion.
Yeah.
So, I've had a lot of really crazy, incredible things of, again, the out of the blue phone call last year as well. I got the out of the blue phone call going, hey, I don't know if this is going to come off, but there might be a Boy George gig. And I was like, oh my God. And then not getting my hopes up, but just going, how amazing would that be?
Yeah.
Like that would just kind of going, even just the fact that there's the potential and you've been called for that is great.
Yep.
But the incredible thing was it ended up coming off, and I not only did a gig with Boy George, but I sang Purple Rain as a duet with him.
Oh, cool.
Oh, just and again, this is this little girl living in West Africa wondering if you can do this as a job. And I flash back to that little girl all the time and just go, if you had told her that this is going to happen, there's no way.
Yeah, that's cool.
There's no way she would have believed that.
Really living the dream, eh?
Oh, so much. Even if it's just these little fleeting, like those little moments that happen that just keep fueling, every other weekend of wherever you may be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some others on the list here, like Leo Sayer.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe I forgot him.
David Campbell.
Yep.
And Anthony Callea, Tim Campbell.
Yep.
Oh, and the most impressive for me.
Yes.
Michael Bolton.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, okay, so here's another story. So
we can talk about the other guys as well, but that's
let's go to the Michael Bolton thing. So last year I had a little break in LA because I have been for a couple of years kind of planning to get a visa and just because for me the big dream that I still have is I want to do a US tour. I would love if I could go over there and get my working visa and just audition for different acts and see if I can't land a backing vocal gig, It might happen, it may never happen, but you got to throw your hat in.
Got to give it a shot.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I was over in LA again, just having a holiday because I was coming back to do the APIA tour, which was a sort of a 2-month or 6-week tour with Marsha Hines, Leo Sayer, Russell Morris, John Paul Young, and Brian Cadd. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting on the plane coming back from LA, and I still had Wi-Fi, and a message popped up, and it was one of the guys who did one of the Tina Arena tours they were promoting, and it just said, "Hey, there's a Michael Bolton tour at the end of May." And June, would you be able to do it? And I was like, oh my, yes, I would love to. And then I'm like, oh no, the APIA tour it goes till the end of May. Oh no, this isn't going to work out. And I said, oh no, I've got this weekend, like the last 2 gigs are Friday and Saturday, the whatever of May. And I said, oh, what a bummer. And he sent me a message back and he goes, it might work out because the first 2 Michael Bolton gigs are the Thursday and the Sunday.
Oh, wicked.
When does that happen? Yeah. When does that happen? Oh, the first 2 gigs are a Thursday and a Sunday.
Yeah.
So I can finish the tour, and they worked it out that they flew me, I flew up to the first Michael Bolton gig, and then they flew me down to Tassie so I could finish the APIA tour and then back to Michael Bolton land.
So Michael Bolton flew you down to...
I think that there was kind of like some split tickets. So one of instead of going to Sydney, I was flown to Tassie, and instead of flown,
Gotcha.
So they worked it out amongst themselves.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's great.
But oh man, Michael Bolton, what a bloody legend, and he is. Oh my God, he's so funny.
Yeah, man, those Audible.com ads that he's been doing are so funny.
He's one of the driest people I've ever met, and I love that humour just tickles me.
Yeah.
So he was just hilarious and wonderful, and what a singer. And so he brought the American band over and then picked up, it was a symphony kind of tour as well, so he had symphony orchestra, and he picked up 3 Australian backing vocalists, so me and Christine and Sharon Muscat, and... yeah, I mean, I seriously, like, what is my life?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was really fun and really great, and that was a joy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, was this around the time that you discovered your cancer?
Yeah, do you know what? So I spent all of the beginning of last year, I did the Chisel thing. I was doing some stuff with Jimmy Barnes, Anthony Callea, Tim Campbell, David Campbell, and then the APIA tour, and went to LA and blah blah blah, and then the Michael Bolton tour, and so I'd been on the road for 2 months straight, like all of May, all of June. Mm-hmm. And it was I think it was the 28th of May was the last gig. So the 29th maybe was the next day. And I was pretty tired because it had been 2 months of just constant touring. And it's not often that we do big tours in Australia that are that long because, it's usually just capital cities and then you're done. But I'd basically not really been home for quite a while. It's maybe a couple of days and change clothes and repack. Here and there, and then I was really shell shocked when we came home. I was like, oh, what am I like? It's great to be home, but I love being on the road. It's my favorite thing in the world. Some people don't like it, but I love waking up in a hotel and just and then where are we going now? It's like and I was just lying on my bed. I was pretty tired and I was pretty bummed out to just kind of, post-tour blues. And my neck was sore and I was just kind of rubbing my neck and rubbing my top of my chest and then my little finger felt something and I went, what's that? And, it was a lump. And I was like, whoa.
Fuck.
It was literally the day after touring finished, so right at the end of June. And I knew that it would be nothing because, of course, it'll be nothing. But I called my GP immediately and booked in the next day. And I saw her the next day and she was like, yep, there's definitely a lump there. And she said, look, we'll send you for an ultrasound biopsy. And so we waited till the Monday to do that because she said not to see the weekend people, especially for a biopsy. She's like, we want to get one of the real... Like, not that the weekend doctors are, you want to see the 9 to 5
that's awesome.
Clinical guys. So on the Monday I went for the biopsy, the mammogram ultrasound, and then the doctor came in and he's like, well, this lump over here that I didn't even know was there, he's like, that looks benign-ish. But he used the word benign-ish, and I'm like... He's like, and then he goes, but I'm a bit worried about, like, want to see this one. And I'm like, that doesn't sound good. I don't like the sound of that. And I'm like, but it'll be nothing. It'll be nothing. And then a few days later, it's not nothing. It's cancer. And I was just like, but I'm too young, aren't I? And the doctor was like, yeah, you're young, but you're not too young. She's like, yeah. So, and then it was just like, oh my God, what happens now? And then
where were you?
I was here. So my doctor was just up the road, and so here being Bondi, and I mean it was well timed in that I was home and didn't have any travel plans for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And I had been wondering what I was going to do for the rest of the year, so that took care of that.
Oh shit, man.
But yeah, so it was just the whirlwind, of course. Funnily enough, so that I got the diagnosis on the Thursday, and then on Friday morning I went off to Dubbo to do a gig with Tim Campbell. And I've talked to Tim and the guys in the band about that since, because we did a gig together in December as well. And Tim I'm good friends with, so I clued him in, but just not that next day. It was like literally the day after diagnosis. And I just remember turning up at the airport with those guys, and I was just in a daze. Like, I was
going to ask, what's the headspace there?
Just a daze.
How can? Yeah, I'm just amazed you could have got yourself out to do that.
Yeah, well, it was just weird because I just had no idea. And I remember being in the hotel room before sound check and just kind of, I was on the phone to the specialist office and I was asking questions. Can't remember what questions I was asking, but I was definitely, just trying to find out information about something and maybe what the follow-up tests were going to be. And then I was on YouTube looking for girls going through cancer treatment and what is it and what happens and, why and blah, blah, blah. And I found this one girl's videos and I just consumed as many of her videos as I could, just going, what am I in store for? And then, basically had to just wait out the weekend, do my gigs, show up at my gigs. I told all my band knew on the first day. And then I waited to tell my dad until I got back from Dubbo because I just didn't want to break the news to him on the phone or while I was dropping my dog off when I went to Dubbo. And so it was just, that was probably the hardest thing, was telling my dad, you know. Because
and where's he?
He's in Mossman, so he's just across the bridge. But but you know, he saw my mum go through breast cancer, and she fought for 8 years.
Okay.
But she died in 91. So, you know, I was like, oh God, he's going to be absolutely devastated. But it was funny. When I told him, he said, wow, you've had that cloud kind of hanging over you, haven't you? You know? So it wasn't, I don't think it was that. I've asked him since, I'm like, did you expect, or did you think that would happen? And he said, oh, it's not that he thought it would happen, but I think he just, you know, I'm his daughter. And even though I've had my genetic testing done and I don't have the BRCA gene, which they know is a breast cancer link, but they have said that they are aware that there must be some other kind of genetic component, but they just don't know what it is yet.
Right.
So I think Dad inherently maybe it was probably in the back of his mind. I mean, it was probably in the back of my mind. That's why I didn't.
That's what I was going to ask you next. Did you think maybe someday?
Well, look, I thought that Mum
or later on.
Yeah, Mum was diagnosed in when she was 45. So I kind of had in the back of my mind, when I'm 45, I'm going to start paying, you know, really close attention and make sure I get screening and all of that kind of stuff. But I was like, oh, I'm not there yet. It's fine. It's fine. It won't happen to me. And if it's going to happen, I'm years away from that. I don't need to worry yet. Mm-hmm. So, but it was obviously in the back of my mind because, man, the moment I found that lump, bang, I was doctor next day. Don't mess around. Yep. And I'm just hoping that that everyone is like that with any lump or something that doesn't feel right. Right. You know, I think everyone should just get whatever checked out, and it'll be nothing. But just check it out just in case. Yep. Because that's that being so quick and proactive has probably saved my life. If I'd left it for like a few months, it might be a really different, you know, conversation. Right. I'm sure it would have been the same kind of treatment, etc. But you know, they cut out a tumour that was the size of a capsule.
Right, okay.
You know, like a pill capsule.
Right.
That's how big it was. But it was super aggressive.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it was like after the surgery, you know, you get a call, like you're supposed to see the surgeon 2 weeks after surgery just to go through the pathology and the test results, etc. And 6 days before I was due to see the surgeon, I got a call from the receptionist going, "Hi, Natasha, we're just wondering, could you come in today?"
Oh, fuck. That's not good. Is that what you're thinking?
Yep. I rang back and I said, that sounds ominous. And they're like, oh, they probably just got the test results. I'm like, yeah, you don't call people in for
6 days early.
Yeah, for good results. Hey, you passed.
Oh, shit.
So it came back, the pathology. I didn't even know there were different types of breast cancer. You know, it's a whole new world, really.
Right.
But yeah, mine came back, it was triple negative, which is not good. It's like a really aggressive cancer. And the good news is it responds really well to chemotherapy. So they believe that, like, even when they took the tumour out, they like I had precancerous cells left like in the margins of what they took what they took out. So it was just like, there's no question you're doing chemotherapy, and there's no sort of targeted stuff. There's other cancers have targeted things that you can kind of stay on for 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
But triple negative, there's no targeted stuff. So it's kind of like the oncologist. The oncologist used an analogy that, you know, you could have like it could be a docile dog, like a massive dog that's docile. And he's like, yours is a really aggressive chihuahua. And he's like, but at least it's not a really aggressive...
Pitbull.
Yeah, exactly. So he's like, we just got to shut this down.
Right.
And I was like, right, sign me up. What do I need to do? You know? So that was 20 weeks of chemo. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think when I first contacted you to do this...
Yeah.
I think you were week 2 in.
Yeah, right.
And you're like, yeah, I'm cool. I'm into it, and I think we were looking at some dates, and then I think a couple of weeks after that, I think the side effects and the fatigue and all that.
Yep.
And we're like, no, let's put this off.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate your.
Oh no, look.
No, but it was that thing that I realised after the second treatment, it was just a matter of focusing on what were going to be my absolute priorities for that week, and that's all I do.
That's it.
That's all you do. So, and it was amazing. I managed to do a ton of gigs with my band. I did Richard Clapton's gig at the Enmore Theatre. I recorded David Campbell's Christmas special. I did some vocal sessions. I actually did a lot of vocal sessions, which was amazing, sort of out of the blue, some jingles and some work on Jimmy Barnes' album, and we did a George Benson album as well.
Yeah, what about that?
I know. I mean, come on.
Did you get to meet him though?
No.
Okay.
Kevin Shirley, who is an Australian, if you look at his resume of things that he's produced and engineered, it's just ridiculous. And he has a studio in Malibu and Nashville and Sydney. Okay. And he recorded all of the Benson album in Nashville, but was back in Australia and I think because he's done a lot of stuff with Jimmy as well, Mahalia was kind of his first call. So Prinny Stevens and myself and Mahalia did the backing vocals for a George Benson album.
That's so cool.
We didn't
is that out?
Yeah, well, I noticed there's a track on... there's a track up on YouTube, so I'm going to have to... Nadine, one of the ones, is up so far. Okay. But I'll have to
I'll find it and I'll link it in the show notes of this.
Yeah. So, I mean, what fun. And it's another thing where you just go, how is this happening?
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, I worked a lot. I worked as much as I could, and I even got to go down to Melbourne on my birthday weekend, which was November 30th and the 1st of December. So I was 3 months into treatment at that point, and but worked with Tim Campbell, did 2 gigs with him, and it was it was sort of after it was only really the last 5 weeks of the 20 that I really started getting affected badly by the chemo. Vocally,
I was going to ask, did it have any effect on your voice at all?
Yeah, at first I was smashing it, vocally. Mahalia laughed because she's like, I said, oh, maybe it's the steroids I'm on, but it was not the steroids. They have no effect. There's some steroids that are good for your voice. Right. These ones had absolutely no effect. But I was like, but my voice is so good. And she said, it's probably because you're not having any coffee or alcohol. And I was like, oh my God, that is exactly what it is. Damn it.
Right. I see you had to stop drinking coffee.
Well, yeah, because I had the worst reflux. Oh, okay. So yeah, the chemo and the steroids and the combination of everything just it strips your mouth, the lining of your mouth, the stomach lining, your intestinal lining, just any kind of soft mucul, I don't know if that's the right word, but just all of those membranes get affected. And at first I was smashing it, and just was just so determined to keep working because it was the one thing that made me feel okay. Yep. Because, you put makeup on and a wig and no one knows you're sick. Yep. So I'd go out into the world and I would just be treated normal. The normal punters would yell play horses at me and and I was with my band and the guy, it was just so good to be with the guys and just feeling like a normal human. Yep. And weirdly still quite protected because it's not like you're just out in the world. You're on stage and you go, the guys, and you just, I don't know, there's some weird comfort about being on stage. It feels like a really safe place to be. Yep. But yeah, there was sort of mid-December, 3.5 months in, I maybe even a little bit more, but yeah, I really started just the downhill as far as I got a little virus and that just wiped me out. Right. And then the vocal recovery after that was just so hard because my vocal cords were fine, but just that first attack of all of the chemo, and I was getting it weekly. So the first 3 days I would basically have very little voice, not be able to sing, and then sort of by the 5th and 6th day my voice would come back. But on the 8th day, back into the chemo chair.
Right.
So I basically had to give it up. Although right at the end, the very last chemo treatment I had, the very next day I did rehearsals for an Australia Day gig and an Australia Day lunch, and I was just so determined to do something really great to kind of put a massive bookend on the whole treatment, and it was pretty crazy to do.
That was the Opera House thing.
So the Opera House thing was the week after treatment, but the first thing that was kind of tied in was like an Australia Day lunch. So I had my last treatment on the Wednesday, had the rehearsal for this lunch the next day, did the lunch the day after that, and then the Australia Day thing was the following week. So, but yeah, it was just so nice to do something and feel like it was just like a big double finger and a fuck you to excuse the swearing, but just to go, fuck that treatment and fuck you, cancer.
Yeah,
like you can't have me, you know.
Yeah.
So awesome. I was very determined, and it was very, for me, very cathartic and very happy way to just put a bookend on all that and go, see you later.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really appreciate you talking about it today too.
Yeah. Well, it's just, I mean, it's a weird thing, and it's I think that was the other thing that I was so grateful for, because I was really scared about coming out, so to speak, with the whole diagnosis, because the one thing that I didn't want was for people to treat me differently, or for people to go, oh, she's sick, we better not hire her for anything. And, it's just, you just don't know.
You don't know,
You don't know if people go, oh, we're not going to give her any gigs because
she might not be able to pull it off.
All of that stuff. So, but I almost got the opposite. You know, my band kept going, and if there were gigs that I couldn't do, we would put in a fill-in, and there's a lot of great singers around, so we had great people fill in when I couldn't do a gig if I was too sick. And also, you know, people did keep calling me, so it wasn't, I was just, that was the thing that I was most afraid of, was that would be, you know, the end of my career for 6 months, but it was really not. So I feel very blessed that that people had faith in me, and also that I was able to do the job. You know, because I'm very driven.
I can tell clearly. And so, where are you now, percentage-wise?
Well, last weekend was the first week I did 2 back-to-back 3-set covers gigs.
Yep.
And I pulled up pretty well.
Okay.
I pulled up pretty well. I was definitely feeling it the second day. But I had no problem. Like, I didn't lose my voice. I managed to do it. I kept the energy up for both gigs. And the weeks before that, I'd just been doing it was quite lucky that I had a run of backing vocal gigs, which, not that they're easy.
I know what you're saying. Yep.
It's not singing 3 sets.
You got a bit of space.
3 sets of power, like club music to try and get people dancing is a different call. I feel more and more confident, especially after last weekend, and then this weekend I've got another 2 gigs, and I feel confident that I'm just building that strength. And also I'm really starting, I can feel this last week, I mean, they say sort of after a month after you've been off chemo, your skin starts to kind of recover, and you're like, I've got 2 millimeters of eyelashes coming in. I can almost see some eyebrow hair. And there's other hair growing, which I never thought I'd be excited about, but
Fantastic.
I really am.
That's cool.
So it feels like the body is starting to rejuvenate. And it's almost starting fresh. So I'm confident that from here on in, you know, all of my, you know, the mouth and the stomach will heal and just get stronger and stronger. So I'm feeling energy's not there, but I can certainly pull out the stops for a 3-hour gig.
Yeah.
100%.
Fantastic. And plans for the next 6 to 12 months?
Yep. So I am having one more surgery in a month and a half.
Okay.
And because the margins of when they took out the tumour, there were precancerous cells right up to the edges of the tissue that they took out. So there would have been another surgery regardless. And the surgeon said he can just shave a little bit more out. And I was like, you know what? It's triple negative breast cancer. My mum died from it. I don't want to take any risks. I know that I'm not genetically positive for that particular mutation, but who knows what else is happening. So I have decided to get double mastectomy and recon. So that'll be the one final surgery in April, and then no radiotherapy because I'm doing that. So that's a positive as well.
Great.
Don't have to radiate my body.
Yep.
And then, after that, just gig.
Yep.
And then I'm still planning on getting my US visa.
Yep,
so,
doing the US thing.
Yeah, and even if it ends up being just a 3-month sabbatical where I go and hang out in LA and not get any gigs, man,
you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Exactly. And there's a lot worse places and things you could do. So so that's sort of my 12-month plan, and hopefully health stays really good, and I just keep getting better and better and stronger and just live my life. It certainly makes you realise that you do only live once, and just do everything that you want to do and have fun and say yes to all the good stuff. And when something you don't want to do comes along, you just say no.
That's it. Good on you.
Yeah.
Well, this has been incredibly inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
And again, thank you for talking with me.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time. And I hope I'm a little bit tangent girl.
No. It's what it's all about. No. You're fantastic. Thanks again, Natasha.
No worries. Thanks,
And
Stevie.
we'll talk soon.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Catch ya.
But you've been a